Parents and students alike often struggle a lot in excelling in the STEM subjects, especially when they are related to the international curricula such as IB Diploma, A levels, AP, or even the student is taking SAT or SAT. Now, as a as an experienced tutor, I have encountered many parents and students alike with the issue that they are not able to find the right tutor to help them get to that top score. And that's why I'm here. Let us have a free and honest discussion about why this problem arises and how we can tackle this in the most effective way. But before you could actually take my word, why would you even trust me? And two, give you the reasons to trust me, I will first show you my credentials. How do I do that? For that, I'm going to take you to, we'll come to this later. But first, let us see what the internet tells about me. My name is Bibhushit Tripathi. You can just type Bibhusit space Tripathy. That's all. And then on Google, after you type it, go to AI mode. That's it. You will find all the details about me. So let me tell you about myself. My name is Vibhushat Tripathi, as you already know, and I have about 10 years of experience in teaching and tutoring physics and math. I started as a tutor for the Indian curricula such as CPSC, ISC, and ICSE. But then, for about 7 years now, I have been tutoring international curricula students, and in that process, my experience has told me about a few common issues that the students and parents encounter. One of those issues is what we're going to deal with right now. Well, if you do the Google search, you can find my LinkedIn profile, and on the AI search, you can get more information about me. So I don't think I should be taking more of your time describing myself. So let's just get started with the issue. You see, this video is essentially a search guide for international STEM tutoring for parents and students both. We will be, segmenting this entire video into three parts. First, what are the key considerations that you should have? And then, what are the options available for you? And finally, we'll go with the budgeting, which is another critical part. Now, when you want to go for a good tutor in the STEM subjects such as physics, chemistry, math, bio, computer science, or even EVS. What are the key considerations you should have? The first one is the curriculum specific mastery that you require in achieving the top score. Whether it's high school STEM subjects such as IB A levels or AP, or if you're preparing for AP. These curricula are not just standard school math or science based curricula. They have a lot of nuances attached to them. For example, the marking scheme is very specific on certain aspects, and then there often you would have to deal with internal assessments, even extended essays, especially when you are in IB diploma. Specific board mark schemes are already there. For example, those doing A levels may be aware that there are three popular boards. There are other boards also, but three popular boards for A levels: Edexcel, then Cambridge, and AQA. Now, the kind of exam delivery or evaluation delivery requirements that these boards have prescribed are slightly different, and a student has to be very specific about his or her respective board. And yes, as I said, syllabus nuances also. There are certain topics which are more emphasized in one board while totally ignored in another board. So you're going to have to take care of that also. And not just you, the tutor that you're looking for must have that curriculum specific mastery. So when you are vetting certain tutors before you select them, ask this question. Tell me something specific about this particular curriculum that you are about to tutor my kid, right? So ask this question. Or if you're a student, just ask, explain. Simple question, right? Just ask him to explain. Ask your tutor or the prospective tutor to explain the differences between the three boards, or ask the specificity of this particular curriculum of this particular board. So how do you know whether the what the tutor is saying is correct or not? Use your common sense. You see, most of the times the parents and the students, especially the parents, are not sure whether to believe or trust what the other person is saying, especially the tutor is saying or not. There are two rules, I'll tell you. First rule is make sure that you're talking to a tutor, not just another salesperson, right? Because if you go to a big tutoring agency, most often you would encounter a salesperson or a tutor. So talk to a tutor, verify the credential, ask the tutor to show him some proof that the person is a tutor. And then ask this question. Whatever he explains, it must make sense to you. If it is not making sense to you, then don't accept the answer. You are a parent of a person, of a student that's already in high school taking a high demanding curriculum. You do have the common sense already. Use it. If what the tutor is explaining to you or giving to you, replying to you or answering to your question, if that doesn't make sense, ask cross questions till the person starts either fumbling or starts to make sense. You know what I mean, right? Now, this applies to me also. Imagine if you ever come to me of looking for a tutor, or if you want to hire me as a physics or math tutor, I would suggest that you ask such questions to me also. If I fumble, reject me outright, because the truth is the truth. This I'm being extremely honest with you in this. Now, second, the standardized test strategy. Now, learning a subject is slightly different from performing well in the subject's test. For example, if you are taking SAT and SAT, there are also different differences in the nuances that these tests have, and depending on what the tutor is tutoring for, you should know what is especially required. How do you get to the high score? Not knowing the formulas is not enough. What actually is required is timing, the elimination strategies, especially when it's a multiple choice question, and the test psychology, which is very, very important. Now, what kind of mindset you should carry while entering the examination venue? That requires a lot of preparation also, and that's exactly why we provide our test prep students the exam training, real exam conditions training using our portal. So they get to experience the anxiety before they actually experience the anxiety in the examination hall, and that's where we counsel them, we give them tips and tricks. Third, measurable outcomes and track record. You should, in your, see, this is one of the issues where I wanted to be very, very specific. Now, as whenever in every academic session, I get a lot of students. I categorize these students and their parents into two groups. One, early planners, second, late bloomers. And the early planners don't just wait till they fail one or two summatives or unit tests. They already know, if they can sense it before they actually enroll into the course. They have already gone through the syllabus, they have gone through the marking scheme, the evaluation system, and they know if they would be requiring a tutor's help in Excel in that particular subject. So they plan early, right, with having a good margin of time, so that they can vet the tutors. They don't have to rush. They don't have to get the first option that gets on their way. They can vet tutors. They can, you know, ask cross questions to the tutoring agency, measure a lot of parameters before making a final decision. And I agree, investing in such tutoring services is a big deal. You don't pay peanuts. You have to pay a good amount of money to get the tutoring service that you deserve. So you should have the time to vet the tutor or the tutoring agency properly. So early planners have this advantage, late bloomers don't. The late bloomers have already failed in one or two, initial assessments in the program, and that's exactly when they get scared. They want help as soon as possible, and chances are they will take whatever help comes the first on their way, and that's not the right thing. Well, if you're lucky, you get a good tutoring agency or a good tutor, that's another thing. But that's not the standard procedure, right? So don't be a late bloomer, be an early planner. Now, what you should be, how would you be judging your progress? First of all, how your score improves over time. Now, you of course cannot wait for your actual school tests, right, to show you how you're improving, because that's risky. So your tutoring agency or your tutor should be taking periodic tests, evaluations to judge those rises, judge the progress. Now, you also need to understand what are the university acceptance rate for the kind of score that you're currently getting or your projected score that you have calculated. If you fall within the accepted zone, that's fine. If not, then you're gonna have to work harder, and that's exactly again where a tutor has to help you out. So you have to have the parents and students must continuously have such discussions with the tutor. How? What should I be doing? Because you have to be clear that these are the universities that I'm supposed to apply. I want to get into these universities for such and such programs. So what am I supposed to do, and how can you help me in this process? And you should be getting a satisfactory and confidence building answer from your tutor. Then you need to have concrete improvement rather than vague promises. You would find plethora of tutoring services that give you vague promises. So how do you know whether they can keep up the promise or the promises are vague? Strictly judge, is your are you improving, or is your child improving in his performance in the school, or at least in the periodic evaluation? No competent tutoring agency would miss out on periodic evaluation. So if a tutoring agency is not doing periodic evaluation, dump them, go for another one. Fourth, stress and anxiety reduction. You see, all these programs are high stakes and they have a lot of work pressure on the student. They create a lot of burnout, right? And that's exactly why you should be hiring a tutor to help you reduce that anxiety and stress. So a tutor is not just going to tell you a plus b whole squared is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. That's not his only job. A tutor's job is to plan your studying habits and studying routines, right? A tutor, for example, as a physics tutor, especially when I tutor an IB student of mine, what I do is I judge the daily activities. I directly ask my students, no, every student, what they do in a particular day. And then once I know their habits, I try to ask them, in fact, that make some changes. Insert your physics revision on these days and these times, these durations. And that also depends on how good the student is in physics, right? If a student is already, doing good, then probably 2 hours a week of revision will be enough. But if a student is very weak in physics, he would be needing 4 to 5 hours of revision. And I'll time the revision for the student in such a way that the student gets to do his extracurricular activities and also not miss out on studies. So that responsibility also goes on the tutor, that actually alleviates your burnout and does not add pressure. And again, always, not asking any simple question and at the end of a week or a month giving a lot of questions as worksheet is not again a good strategy for a tutor. So if you see your tutor doing that, dump them. Uh, an ideal tutor would be, giving you questions in every class. In most of the classes will be assigning homework, and periodically, maybe once a week, will be giving you a small worksheet. If you are going on a vacation, he'll be giving you a long worksheet so that you can carry it with you. Spend some time doing the worksheet and submit it. We'll be doing evaluation. I'll be discussing in the class. These are the way where you divide the force over a larger area. Pressure is force per unit area. So the force is the same. All these curricula exert tremendous amount of pressure on you. It's your tutor's job to distribute that pressure over a wider area so that the pressure becomes less. Now, five, clear communication and progress tracking. Now, there should be a complete transparency and regular communication between the parents and the tutor. Now, here I'm excluding the student from this equation. I mean, it's not the student is not totally taken out of the equation, but there should be a direct communication between at least one parent and the tutor, which must be a regular two-way communication, so that both of them know how the student is doing progress. And that is a very, very important part of any tutoring service. Now, let's come to the second section. What are your options that are available? When you start looking for a tutor, whether you are a late bloomer or an early planner, you have all these three options. First, you immediately go for the billboards, right? The on digital billboards, all the billboards in your browser that scream that we are this, we are that, and take our service. You can go with them. Large ed techs or automated platforms, Magoosh, and you have Kaplan, you have instant reviews, all of them for for test preps. Then there are others also. For example, I also work on Tutopia. I work on Preply. So they're large brands. You can go for them also. They are often cheap and flexible, but I'll come to the cheap part when we discuss the budgeting options, right? Keep that in mind because what I say when I say it's cheap, it's not cheap in a literal sense, right? So often you can say that the large ed techs cheap, easily available, and they're automated. These days, almost every large platform offers AI service, so it's automated. But there's a lack of personalized attention, and this is what I hate in these platforms because the first thing that you need a tutor means you need personalized attention, right? Because you already are spending too much, investing too much money in your school. Now, international curricula is not a very cheap option, right? You're already spending too much money, you know, in providing the education through a good school. But if your child is unable to extract the most from the school teacher, you need to know why. The reason behind that is a simple word called questions. Maybe the teacher in the school is not able to inspire the questioning skills in your student or the interest in questions in the student. Or maybe or the only other option is the student has a lot of questions. It's just that the student doesn't feel comfortable asking these questions in that kind of a setting where there are a lot of peers and there is a fear of being ridiculed. So that's exactly why you need a tutor to give you one-to-one personalized private sessions, whether online or offline, right? So often what happens is large edtech and automated platforms offering group classes, they do not have the personalized attention part. They miss out on this. So see for yourself if your child or if you are a student, then if you need personalized attention, I would suggest that you avoid them. And then curriculum specificity, strong tutor continuity is once again it's because when you talk about large ed techs, tutors come and go. So if a tutor starts just decides to quit, then they will replace the tutor with another one. But what happens? Your communication is discontinued. That's not always a good thing. Second, peer tutors and university students. For example, this is exactly how I started. Why do some fresh graduates take up tutoring? Simple answer, easy money. That's exactly why I chose tutoring at the first place initially. But then later on, I loved what I did and I stuck to it. So yeah, these guys, this fresh graduates, are relatable, affordable. They often do not charge a lot, but then they lack one thing, a formal teaching or pedagogical training, which may become a key issue later on. Now, there is also a lack of long-term commitment, and there is a lack of deep exam board insight. Because, see, what these guys carry in their head is what they have experienced during the recent program graduation. But, international curricula often include periodic and regular updates. And these guys, the part-time tutors, may not be aware of the recent updates which are critical for you. So that is one thing you have to also look for. The third one, specialized niche services like STEM tutors that I run. Now, STEM tutors and organizations alike offer expert mentors, subject matter specialization, personalized roadmaps, and proven exam result. So you should be choosing, if imagine if you are looking for a certain like science subjects, especially STEM subjects, choose those agencies or services that specialize on that front. So that's one thing. But there is one risk, and that's probably where I would be harsh on myself. See, I'll tell you the truth. When STEM Tutor started, for 5 years of the initiation, we were taking students mostly by direct reference or indirect reference, but reference it was. So the parents and the students had no trust issues with us. Even even till date, we don't have any trust issues with the students or parents who are being referred to us by our earlier parents and students. But then I have encountered this the moment when I started running ad campaigns recently. I got a lot of new requests, and I sense suspicion, and I know that's justified. How would you know the kind of money that you're putting in to a tutoring service? How do you know that these guys would be reliable? Whether they would, how do you know that these guys would not run away with your money? What happens here is, understand, you need to, first of all, you need to have credentials. When I say credentials, it's not just what you find online about them, like uh, on Trustpilot. Yes, that's one thing. You need to basically consider the reviews given by actual students and parents on Trustpilot, or similarly, similar rating websites for those kind of tutoring services. And this is where I have failed. I'm sorry, but because I hadn't thought about trust building online. So I never created a Trustpilot Trustpilot page where my actual students and parents could give their feedback. I've recently started it, and we will soon start getting reviews on that from our actual students and parents. But then that's exactly where I ignored. That is a very important aspect. I'm being honest, I ignored that. But I'm working on it. Anyways, but for you, you need to check first the authenticity and the real feedback, not just anyone. Don't trust those feedbacks given by, if you can just go on that feedback portal and give your feedback on their services, don't trust it. The authentic feedback comes only through official communication, right? So go for authentic feedback if possible. Otherwise, what you need to do, look for their address, and you must have their identification number, right? For example, we have our address on the website, we have our identification, the GST number. We also, I'll show you exactly how it would look like. Let's suppose you go on to STEM Tutors website. I'm not gonna go on anyone else's website. I'll just show you an example. For example, if you go to About Us section, you would see my name and description there, and then you will have a legal declaration there. So if you go on there, you would basically see that it is officially registered with the Ministry of MSME, Government of India. You have a certificate. You can basically look at the address. You can look at the GST number, the ID number also here. And any of our invoices, you will definitely find our GST number, which is again trackable. So we have accountability. So if a tutoring service doesn't have solid accountability, I think it's risky. Even they might lure you with a very very affordable package, or they might lower their charges to lure you into taking their services, but you never know when they run away. It has happened with a lot of parents. I know that because of I have encountered a lot of parents who have got that kind of trauma. By the time they reached me, they already were traumatized, and that's exactly why I had to counsel them a lot, and I had to show a lot of my credentials to them so that they could trust me, and they eventually took my services. But then I understand the kind of trauma that you may encounter in such incidents. So accountability, make a note, accountability. The tutoring service should have solid accountability so that they cannot simply run away after failing on their promises. Now let's come to budget options. You see, don't go for low budget options. Do not go for it. You see, I'll show you. For example, let's say you want to know how much should be the budget for, let's say, AP Physics 1 tutoring. So just go on Google, search AP, just search this option. How much does AP Physics 1 online tutoring cost? Now understand one thing. Always add this per hour. I'll tell you why. Now, before I show you the results. Sorry. When you're looking to decide on your budget options, always compare per hour charges. Always. You might argue that education is not a commodity, it's basically an entire commitment. Yes, I understand. But when you are trying to do justice to your budget, the the only parameter here is the per hour charges. Now, you might go for a package, and in fact, if you go for a package, you would be getting a lot of discounts. For example, if someone takes a tutoring service for FE Physics, we charge them $25 per hour. When it's in Indian, for example, 2,500 rupees plus GST if they're in India. But if they are not in India, they're outside, they're paying through foreign currency such as USD or their local currency, then in that case, the hourly charge currently is $30 per hour. But then we don't actually charge that to our parents because most of the parents do not actually take one or two classes or five classes. They take 20 classes minimum or more than 20 classes, like 40, 60 classes. For example, AP Physics 1 demands about 50 hours of classes. That's 50 hours of classes. In that case, the hourly charge eventually that they get to pay is lesser than what we quote initially. We tell them that it's $30 per hour, but you're never gonna take just 1 hour, right? So you're gonna take a bulk, you're gonna take a bulk amount of hours depending on the package, right? You want a complete package, we'll make sure that it covers not just on one-to-one tutoring, it also covers the materials, the testing, evaluation, grading, everything. So when it becomes a package, your per hour charges becomes less. But then it remains a very, very important key in comparison. Now let's go back. You see, when you look at online physics tutoring for AP Physics 1, Google tells you that it lies somewhere between 20 and $60 per an hour, right? That is on an average national market rate. But then there are others one. You can basically look at the pricing by the platform type. For example, if you go to independent marketplace such as Wisent, Wingy, they have the rates such as $15 or $60. Now, what you do? Take a free trial with them, compare the services, see what are all other things that are offering. Now, if you look for a premium test prep agency, they will be charging you around $50 to $60 per hour. So this is the comparison. If you go to new marketplaces such as Wisent and Wingy, they might cost you less, but then chances are when you pay less, there would be a larger compromise on the quality of tutor that you would be getting. But then if you go on a platform that is already premium, they will be charging you a lot, but chances are you will be getting a really good tutor with them. Now, um, there are also offshore or international tutors such as myself. They are also, I mean, yeah, they might offer you the service well within your budget, but in that case, you have to make sure that, as I said, you have to judge the tutor based on the parameters we have already discussed. So this is exactly how you should be planning your budget. If you go too high, chances are you will be getting really good service. Yes. But then if you are trying to cut down on your budget, then keep it moderate. Don't go too low. If you go too low, I don't think you will be missing out on one or two important parameters. Definitely. If you get a tutor who charges a lot less, but you might see that the tutor is just an individual just tutoring from his kitchen as a part-time basis, and he would not have the resources to take periodic tests or do the grading and all. So you will miss out on a lot of things. I would strongly suggest not to go with the low budgeting option. Either choose it high or moderate. So this is how your budgeting strategy has to be. You always do a Google search, find the competitive market rates, both for local as well as online options, and then keep that in your head while you're looking for a tutor. And before you finalize the tutor or the tutoring service, you see whether for the kind of budget that you are eventually agreeing on, are you going to get all these important delivery uh, identifiers? You see, what we have already discussed is what are the eventual delivery elements. So, are you going to get all these necessary or essential delivery elements for the budget that you are about to agree on? If not, then increase your budget a little bit. You need to understand one thing. If you want to pay for peanuts, what you get is peanuts. So, want to get good tutoring service or want to hire a good tutor, you're gonna have to pay well. It might not have to be very high, but then it is not going to be very cheap. So keep all these things in mind. If you have any further questions, you can visit STEM Tutors, and let me show you. If you just visit STEM Tutors, I'll add the one second. You just go to STEM Tutors and you will have the option, the WhatsApp chat option. You can just put a request. You have any question, you don't want to buy our services, that's fine. You can look at our services also, what are the things that we offer, and you can check our testimonial section also. Yeah, there is one more thing. You can visit our blog. Um, there are a few good posts where you can basically get a lot of insights. So visit that, check the website, look at our courses, what are the services that we're offering. And even if you don't want to take a service, if you still have a question, I am happy to answer your questions. So because we are not into sales, we understand that it's not. I hate to call it education business. It's education service because we are all tutors at STEM Tutors. We are a team of passionate tutors. None of us is a salesperson. So we are always happy to answer your questions as honestly and directly as possible. So feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. I hope I have answered most of your questions in this video. If not, you can also put a comment in the video under the video. I will try to answer that. Thank you very much.